Psychology is the scientific study of behavior and is tested through scientific research. Psychologists attempt to explain and predict why people behave, feel, and think as they do. They attempt to learn ways that people can improve their quality of life. This is done through a process of description, explanation, prediction, and influence toward behaviors. The most popular debate in psychology is nature versus nurture. Are we a product of inheritable traits or of our environment? Psychology has come a long way since the study of phrenology, which looked at bumps on people's heads as a way to explain mental disorders. Wilhelm Wundt is regarded as the father of experimental psychology, as he set up the first psychology lab in Germany in 1879. Wilhelm was a structuralist. He looked at basic elements of human experience. This eventually led to functionalism, which studies the function of cognitive processes rather than the structure. A common method of study of mental processes is introspection, a method of self-observation where the subject reports their feelings and thoughts. This all led to Gestalt psychology, which studies how sensations are made into perceptual experiences, looking at the whole object rather than individual parts. There are many modern approaches. Psychoanalytical focuses on unconscious motives. Behavioral studies behavior based on environment. Humanist believes each person is free to make their own choices. Cognitive looks at how we process, store, and use information in regards to behavior. Biological studies physical and chemical changes that affect our behavior. And sociocultural takes into account ethnicity, gender, and culture influencing our behavior. Experimenters use the scientific method, a general approach to gathering information and answering questions so that errors and biases are minimized. They must first create a hypothesis, an assumption about behavior that is tested through scientific research. There are two reasons for experimenting: basic science, science for the sake of it, or applied science, discovering ways to use basic science and apply it. Researchers may use a single blind experiment, so only the researcher knows who is being exposed to the variable, or a double-blind experiment. Both the subject and the researcher do not know who will be receiving what in order to eliminate bias. For each experiment, there must be a sample, a selection of people for an experiment. It should be large and random, but still equal. There must also be an experimental group, the group exposed to the variables, a control group, not exposed to the change, and a variable, whatever is being manipulated. Be careful not to have a self-fulfilling prophecy. This is seeing the results you want to see, not because they're actually there. This is similar to the placebo effect, believing that something will help and thus feeling better, without any real medication. Next, the experimenter will choose a design method, such as naturalistic observation, which is watching subjects in a natural environment, or a longitudinal study, studying subjects over a long period of time. Survey is a method of asking multiple questions, similar to an interview method. Case study is a detailed study of something specific. A cross-sectional study takes groups that are similar except for something like age, and then compares results. With the results, the researcher will find a correlation, a relationship or connection between two things. They will look at the correlation coefficient. A positive correlation coefficient means that the two things go up and down together. A negative correlation coefficient indicates that as one score increases, the other score decreases. This all leads to statistics, collecting and analyzing numerical data in large quantities. Descriptive statistics are used to describe data, whereas inferential statistics make inferences based on statistics. A normal curve is a symmetrical curve representing the normal distribution. The central tendency is the tendency of samples of a given measurement to cluster around some central value. The mean is the average, the median is the middle number, and the mode is the most frequently occurring number. Standard deviation is a quantity calculated to indicate the extent of deviation for a group as a whole. Variance is the state of being different, and frequency distribution is a summary of how often different scores occur within a sample of scores. There are many different jobs within the field of psychology. A clinical psychologist assesses and treats mental disorders. A counseling psychologist focuses on providing therapeutic treatments to clients who experience a wide variety of symptoms, and psychiatry specializes in diagnosing and treating mental disorders.